president of Paradigm Electronics Incorporated. I've been with the company now for 26 years, one of the founders of the company. Originally, there was 3 of us that started. We had a simple goal of building a better, cheaper mousetrap. And in this case, it was loudspeakers. And through a series of convenient circumstances, we were allowed a great opportunity to have a business built and go forward. There were 3 of us, which each had a series of individual talents that worked well together. And we had, as an asset for a fledgling company, the National Research Council, which had been doing investigations, originally started on behalf of the CBC to define what makes loudspeakers good versus not good. As I'm sure most everyone watching this film will know, Floyd Toole headed up that program. In 1982, that's when I became a friend of Floyd's. We still have that friendship today. And Paradigm has fully embraced the research that was carried on at the NRC, the conclusions that were drawn. We've carried on with that work ourselves. We have developed an anechoic chamber that is in-house so that we can bring the development cycle down. We distribute to about 50 countries now. We've got about 1,000 outlets in North America, so from our small start in 1982, we have managed to be quite successful. So we have had one constant in all of that, is that our design principles have been guided by the independent work that was first started at the NRC. So blind screen listening, flat on-axis response coupled with smooth off-axis response, and realizing that the spatially averaged curves, total radiated front hemisphere, all have meaning within what goes towards making a good loudspeaker. Audio was always a hobby of mine. Before Paradigm, I only worked for a reasonably short period of time when I was a student in an audio retailer selling stereo equipment. But for myself personally, I had a couple of loves, and loudspeakers was one of them, so I decided to pursue it. And at the beginning, the largest challenge that seemed to be an opportunity, at least from a business sense, was the opportunity of taking what I noted in the industry was that you could have loudspeakers that would play very loud. You have theater-type speakers, sound reinforcement-type speakers, and you can have speakers that would sound quite good. We didn't tend to have a combination of the two. And even to this day, studio monitors tend to not necessarily have the same good principles of design that many home loudspeaker companies have adopted, especially through the work that's been done. So for myself, Paradigm has been an avenue to slowly but surely have a more complete ability for a person at home to get a realistic experience, both in terms of fidelity in the reproduction of sound and in how loud the product will play without distortion that tends to be inherent in smaller speakers. Going forward, that continues to be a goal. Everyday form factor becomes more important in terms of what a consumer wants to buy. They have less tolerance for the large loudspeaker to make for a performance. So with newer technologies, higher output power, DSP control over frequency response and so on, we can deliver better and better sound in smaller packages that can be more worthwhile for the average consumer. I think that the average consumer cares about good audio, but they tend to be dismissive because they don't trust themselves. They don't trust that they can hear the difference between good and bad sound. And fortunately for everyone, as long as you have normal hearing, which means you don't have any impairment, you actually can hear the difference between good and bad sound. It is something that we're all blessed with. So it's really, I think it really harkens back to the days of loudspeakers and listening to being more of a black art, and you don't really know what is a good speaker or a bad speaker. But through the efforts of the AES, the National Research Council, the scientific literature, that is well defined now. We know what makes better sound, and given a choice, a consumer will always prefer that. It's just they need to know that is available to them. And there was even discussions today for creating those standards through the AES so that the industry as a whole, from recording end all the way through to the consumer end, has a common understanding of what the goals are for making the best sound. And that basically will provide for an increase in the state of the art. I don't think that MP3s in and of themselves are the worst case of what is going to provide poor sound. I think that probably package systems that are trying to give too much presentation for too little. If we look at the real performance of some of the package systems where you get the DVD player and all of the 5 speakers and the subwoofer, and we look at them in terms of their real performance, they do not qualify as being high fidelity. And the average consumer is going to be taken down the wrong path. The knowledge is out there, the technology is there, but the deliverable that is being given by some of the larger electronics companies, they're ignoring the science and just delivering, I guess we'd call it the sizzle, not the steak. So companies that hold the art to a higher regard, and I count us as certainly being one of them, continue to need to educate the consumer that no, there is a better way, and it does sound better and you can hear the difference.